Hello guys, I'd like to give you a warm welcome back to the channel. So we're on episode 2 now of the guitar build, okay? So in this episode, basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be prepping our body, we're going to be filling the grain, and we're going to be staining. Now, I will leave the finish for another episode. If you remember in the first episode, I mentioned that we were going to do a nitrocellulose finish. I have now decided against that idea as I've been recommended another product by a few people in the sort of guitar building community, and that product is True Oil. So I'm going to try a True Oil finish on top of this body, due to arrive next week. For this episode, we'll just obviously prep our body, get the grain filled, do a nice lovely walnut stain, and then we'll leave the finish for a later episode, okay? Now, to get us started, if you guys watched the first episode, you'll remember me mentioning there was a few little nicks and a few little dents on the actual body. This is probably due to the machine, or somebody during the manufacturing process has made an absolute fuck up. So I'll show you on the camera. I'm not too sure if you can see. There's like a little dent here, okay, and there's another little mark there as well, okay. Now, this does present problems for the simple reason that when we go to fill the grain, what's going to happen is the actual compound that we use will actually fill those imperfections as well, so we won't actually get a nice uniform finish. So what we're going to try first of all is basically the only thing we can try is to try and steam those dents out. I mean, you could sand, but for something that deep, I'm not too sure if that's going to be any good. So we're going to try the steaming method, which is something I've done a few times in the past and it has worked for me, but this nick in particular is very, very deep. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm not too sure if this will work, but we'll give it a try anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera a little bit closer, and I'm just going to sort of walk you through the process of doing this. Personally, I wouldn't recommend it. However, excuse me, however, it is our only option. If we can't get those nicks out, we're just going to have to leave it as is. To be honest with you, I probably should have gotten in touch with the manufacturer and said, listen, you've sent me a defective body, please send me another, but it's a bit late for that now. So let's try and see if we can bring this wood back, okay, and get those those little nicks sort of evened out, and I'll show you how I do that, okay. Safety. I'm going to be going on about safety in this entire series because I think safety is, as the crazy Russian hacker would say, #1 priority, okay. So you need to make sure throughout the entire process of building a guitar, although it might seem fun, there's a lot of risk involved, particularly to your health, okay. So safety is absolute key. So basically what we're going to be doing, we're actually going to be using a soldering iron, okay, and a damp cloth to generate steam to push through to the pores of the wood and hopefully bring it up, okay. So if you've got a soldering iron, that's fine. If not, you could try using a normal clothes iron, but this kind of gives you a little bit more accuracy. But again, please guys, be really, really careful, okay, because these things are like 400 degrees. So get it up as high as you can go, okay. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to damp my cloth again. Make sure it's reasonably saturated, okay. And we're going to place it over the spot we're trying to lift, okay. Try and memorise exactly where it is, okay. And then just now, as you can see, that's starting to come up just a little bit. Just work little bits at a time, okay? Because what you don't want is you don't want to scorch the wood, okay? Now, of course, guys, this isn't going to be absolutely perfect, but it's going to be better than what it is just now. As you can see, it's just a very slight dent, okay? So just keep going. That looks not bad, that looks okay. Again, once we fill the grain, sand it and seal it, the rest should be fine. And then our other piece, our other little discrepancy is here. So I'm going to try that as well. You see that starting to come up now. So guys, I've finished the process as best I can. Now, I'm not actually too sure if you can see here. I'll try and show you as best I can to the camera, okay? As you can see, the actual wood has raised because of the steam. So once we sand that back, that should be okay. My only concern, however, is the initial, the bigger one, the divot is still there. But again, it's not an issue. The thing is, this is never going to be a perfect guitar. It's going to be the best we can possibly make it, you know. And like I said, we didn't spend a lot of money on this body. So if you want to spend £300, you know, on a body from Warmouth, you know, a good quality, perfectly finished body, by all means. But again, this is a guitar on a shoestring budget. So this is the best we could do. But I think once we sand it back and, you know, do our finish, I think it'll be fine and barely noticeable, if anything. So yeah, so I'm going to leave this here. We're going to let this wood dry out, and then the next part, we're going to sand the body, and then we're going to start our filling process, which I'll show you guys when we come back. Okay, see you in a minute. Right, so guys, we've managed as best we possibly can to get those little imperfections out of the wood on the front side. We've let it dry to a certain degree, but what we're going to do now is we're going to start prepping the back, basically the entire body, to get the surface more or less to an acceptable standard so we can start grain filling. So what we're going to do, we're going to use some 220 grit sandpaper, okay, with a sanding block, and we're just going to go in the direction of the grain, nice and smooth, nice and easy, just until we get a nice smooth finish. And of course guys, please use respirators or masks.
Gotta get bad before it gets good. It's gotta get bad before it gets good. It's gotta get bad before it gets good. I want it good now, but it's gotta get bad before it gets good. That's what you say. It's gotta get bad before it gets good. See, stick with me. You know that you should, cause it's gotta get bad before it gets good. You say trust me, but just me. Put your faith in me, then wait patiently.
So as you can see guys, we've just lightly dampened the surface of the wood, okay? Again, this is going to help the grain sort of pop back up, okay? And then we're going to sand it once more back down to 220, and then we can start with our filling, our grain filling, okay? So I'll speak to you guys in a few minutes, okay? Right guys, so what we did, so just to recap, we sanded the body down to 220, gave it a little wipe, obviously with a lint-free cloth, absolutely imperative. You don't want any small fibres or anything like that. And then what I did afterwards was actually I dampened this cloth, well it's another cloth, and I just ran it over the body, just enough to slightly dampen the body all over, back as well. And the reason we did this was to further raise the grain, and then we sanded it back again, okay? So it's been sanded twice effectively. So like I said, yeah, sand it, give it a good clean, bring back that grain with a damp cloth, and then sand it back again to 220. That should be fine. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to be using an oak coloured wood filler, okay? Now you can purchase this from any hardware store, it doesn't really matter, you can purchase it from anywhere. I picked this up for like $3. We're actually going to tint the filler with some water-based dye, okay? Now if you're mixing dyes and wood fillers together, you have to make sure that both products are water-based, okay? Water-based is the way forward anyway, you know, it's less toxic and stuff like that. So we're just going to tint this a little bit darker, okay, with this Wenge dye, and basically what that's going to do is when we fill the grain, all those little pores you can see will be just a little bit darker, and when we stain it, they'll really pop, you know. I think it'll look fantastic. Now, there's no hard and fast rule as to how to mix your wood filler. I'll show you how I mix mine. What I generally do is I basically mix it down to the consistency of, I would say, custard, and then I just scrape it on and get it right into the grain. So we'll make the mix first and tint it, and then yeah. So just put a good dollop. What I would suggest is make more than you need, just in case you make some mistakes and you have to go back over it, okay? So do that, all right. Then what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to add just the tiniest little bit of water, all right, end of the spoon, okay. So we're just going to add just the tiniest little bit of water just to soften it up, yeah. You really don't need a lot, trust me, you do not need a lot. And as you can see, it's more or less already starting to get to that sort of custard consistency, you know. You maybe want it just a little bit thicker than custard. Obviously the thinner you make it, the longer it's going to take to dry. So, and now what we're going to do is we're going to tint it just ever so slightly with this little bit of Wenge, okay. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to very lightly spatula it on, okay. Just add a little bit to the body, okay, a little bit here, a little bit there, and a little bit here, and then just work it in. And you need to work quite quickly because this stuff starts drying very quickly. Once you've covered the majority of the surface, what you want to do to make your sanding job easier, and you know, obviously once it dries you need to sand out the filler, just grab the sharp edge of your spatula and just take off as much as you can. So as you can see guys, the front side's more or less done. You know, I've done as much scraping as I can, and obviously the rest we just sand back, but as you can see the grain's filled. There's a few spots that we've missed with the spatula, so what I'm going to do is for the back and sides, I'm going to show you another method of applying the grain filler, okay? So I've just added another little bit more, and I'm just going to add some of this tint, again just to darken it again. So I think we might be a little bit short, but not to worry, okay? So again, clean rag, just add a little bit and just push it in with the rag, okay? That's fine, that is absolutely fine. Like I said, don't worry too much about what goes down in the cavity. Again, you probably should tape it up, but I don't bother, because like I said, it's all going to be hidden by the pickguard, and like I said, everything just clumps together and you can just sort of loosen it off and then tap it out. But that's pretty much going to be fine, okay? Now what I'd recommend you do, just leave that to dry for around 4 to 5 hours, depending on the manufacturer's instructions. I would recommend an overnight job, to be honest with you. So just follow the instructions, leave it to dry for the appropriate time. Like I said, it's better if you do an overnighter. And then, yeah, what I'll do is I'll bring you guys back after this is dried, and then we'll get it all sanded back down to reveal the grain and the work that we've did, okay? Like I said, any bits and pieces that are kind of just needing filled in, just fill them in. Probably might need to do this again, just to make sure everything's all filled in, but for now that will be sufficient. Let it dry, and then we'll come back, get it all sanded down, and then we'll have a look, and then after that we'll be ready to stain the body. And then once we apply the stain, I think it's going to look absolutely stunning. Right, so guys, after around the 3 to 5 hour mark, like I mentioned, overnight's a preferable option. After which, what you're then going to want to do is just to sand the hell out of it. Okay, so 220 and just sand until you can see bare wood, but until you can also see the darker colour of the filled grain. Now, I'll show you what I mean, because I actually started sanding the front side. Okay, now I was a little bit apprehensive about the colour fading, but what I've actually already did is I've just ran a wet rag over the actual body. So if I just give it a little wipe, okay, just so you can see. You can actually see there the grain's been filled and it looks beautiful. It really does look really nice. That's the kind of result you're wanting, okay? Right guys, so we have sanded the body back to 220. So obviously this is after the grain filling, okay? Now from this point onwards I'm using gloves, okay? Because at the present moment the body is more or less sanded and looking perfect. I really don't want to run the risk, you know, getting oils and other sort of impurities that live in your hands onto the wood, okay? Because I've seen it happen, you know, oil on your hands, once it gets in there, it's bad, okay? Now we are on to the exciting part, which is staining the body, okay? So we will be using the walnut stain, okay? I've added just the tiniest amount of water in here just to sort of dilute it. We're not really too sure how dark the colour is going to be on the mahogany. I actually tested it on a bit of pine and this was at full strength after 2 or 3 coats, okay? Now don't worry about the inconsistency in the coloration. I didn't sand this or prepare this block. It was really just to get an idea for the colour. I've also tried some of the True Oil because that arrived yesterday and it's looking good. So yeah, this is the kind of colour we're wanting, but again, we're just going to water it down ever so slightly, just so that, you know, because this is a slightly darker wood than pine, you know, we don't want it to be too dark. So if we find it's too light, we can just keep adding another coat until we get to the darkness and colour that we want, okay? So make sure your body's absolutely spotless. You know, try and get as much, you know, sawdust and, you know, bits of hair and oose and stuff like that off the wood. And then, yeah, quite simply, we're just going to grab our stain. You can kind of get an idea what the colour's like, but we'll add it to the water. Quite a bit. Obviously we can use this later, so don't worry if you pour too much on. Just give it a very light swirl, okay? And then you can apply this using a cotton rag, you know, bits of an old t-shirt, stuff like that. Make sure it's a lint-free cloth. Again, we don't want little particles and fibres, you know, sitting on the wood when we apply the stain. But I'm going to use this little sort of soft sponge pad. I just find it just gives you a more even coat. So yeah, so quite simply, all we're going to do now, we're going to get our sponge pad, we're going to dip it in to the stain. As you can see there, try and get it along an even surface of the pad. As you can see, it's there. And we're just going to wipe it on. It's as simple as that.
We came so by to the sea silently, and when we go to the sea soundlessly, Seminole fly, the episode.
And then guys, once you've done your even coat, you know, your even sort of application, you really should have something that looks like this. And it's gorgeous, it's absolutely gorgeous. Have a look. I think it's beautiful. You know, look at that. Grain really pops. I think it looks fantastic. To be honest, that will probably do. I think that will be sufficient. But yeah, we'll let it dry, see how it looks, and if we need to do another coat, we'll do that as well. But again, that's it stained, job done. Okay, and then just leave this to dry for 24 hours, or as per the manufacturer's recommendations. Ideally, if you can sort of get the body up off the ground, you know, to get some air into it. And guys, I just thought I would show you, just in sort of natural daylight, kind of what we're looking for here. Absolutely stunning finish, really kind of nice dark walnutty brown. Again, just being careful not to touch the actual body with your fingers. Obviously my fingers got stained, well, that's fine, but that's really what we're looking for. Really nice, dark, deep, rich colour. Okay, so guys, we're going to leave the episode here. Okay, this is the end of this episode. Next episode we're going to be working on the neck, so we're going to be crowning and levelling our frets, and we're going to be starting on the staining of the neck as well. So I really wish that you can join me for that episode as well. So just remember to subscribe. That video should be out in the next week or so, so hit that subscribe button. Again, if you liked the video, please let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like, and we'll see you in the next episode.